The English Detective Chronicles. The English Detective Chronicles, Part 1. The Riddle of the Raven. Inspector Alastair Finch, a man whose reputation for solving intricate international crimes preceded him like a whispered legend, sat in his dimly lit study, the scent of old books and pipe tobacco hanging heavy in the air. A telegram, crisp and urgent, lay open on his mahogany desk, its contents a summons to a case unlike any he had encountered before. The message was brief, signed by a consortium of international agencies. A series of seemingly unrelated crimes had plagued several English-speaking nations, each bearing the cryptic hallmark of a single mastermind. The only link between the crimes was a series of riddles delivered in impeccable English, taunting authorities with clues to the next planned act. Finch, a man of sharp intellect and a keen observer of human nature, possessed a unique advantage, a profound love for the English language, its myriad dialects, its colorful history, and its intricate grammar. He believed that language was a window into the soul, a tool that could unlock the secrets of even the most cunning criminal mind. His first task was to decipher the initial riddle, a cryptic verse delivered with the chilling emblem of a raven. When shadows dance and moonlight weeps, where knowledge sleeps and history creeps, a treasure sought, a truth concealed, the raven's whisper shall be revealed. Finch, his brow furrowed in concentration, pored over the verse, dissecting its structure, analyzing its vocabulary, and searching for hidden meanings within its poetic imagery. The Raven, he surmised, was the self-styled moniker of the criminal mastermind, a figure who seemed to revel in their mastery of the English language. Shadows dance and moonlight weeps, he murmured, pacing his study. The phrase evoked a sense of secrecy, a clandestine meeting, perhaps, under the cover of darkness. Where knowledge sleeps and history creeps. This suggested a location steeped in academic or historical significance, possibly a library, a museum, or an ancient archive. A treasure sought, a truth concealed, Finch continued, his voice gaining a hint of excitement. This pointed toward the motive the criminal was not simply a thrill-seeker, but a pursuer of knowledge, a seeker of hidden truths. The raven's whisper shall be revealed, he concluded, a glint of determination in his eye. This was the crux of the riddle, a promise of a further revelation, a clue to the next crime. Finch, armed with his intuition and his deep understanding of the nuances of the English language, believed he had identified the location of the next crime, the Bodleian Library in Oxford, a repository of ancient texts and a bastion of academic knowledge. He immediately contacted his colleagues in Oxford, alerting them to his suspicions and requesting their assistance in securing the library and monitoring any unusual activity. He then packed his bags, his trusty magnifying glass tucked securely in his coat pocket, and set off for Oxford, his mind buzzing with anticipation and a sense of intellectual challenge. As the train sped towards Oxford, Finch immersed himself in the works of English poets and playwrights, from Shakespeare to Chaucer, from Wordsworth to Wilde. He believed that the Raven, with their penchant for riddles and literary allusions, was likely a connoisseur of the English language, and understanding their literary influences might be the key to unlocking their twisted mind. The journey to Oxford was not just a physical one, but a linguistic pilgrimage, a deep dive into the rich tapestry of the English language, a language that held the key to solving this intricate international mystery. Finch, the English detective, was ready to face the challenge, armed with his wit, his intuition, and his unwavering love for the language that connected him to the criminal mastermind he was determined to unmask. The English Detective. Chronicles, Part 2. Across the linguistic landscape. The hallowed halls of the Bodleian Library, steeped in the scent of aged parchment and whispered secrets, hummed with an unusual tension. Inspector Finch, moving with the quiet grace of a seasoned predator, observed the library's patrons, his sharp eyes scanning for any sign of suspicious activity. His Oxford colleagues, alerted to the potential threat, had discreetly increased security, blending seamlessly into the scholarly ambiance. The predicted crime, a theft of a rare first edition of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, had indeed occurred. The thief, however, had left behind a new riddle, penned in elegant script on a piece of parchment. Across the pond, where accents roam, and liberty's bell makes its home, a gilded cage, a feathered prize, the raven's next game shall arise. Finch, recognizing the distinct transatlantic flavor of the verse, deduced that the raven's next target lay across the Atlantic, in the United States. Across the pond, a common British idiom referring to the Atlantic Ocean, left no room for doubt. Liberty's bell makes its home, clearly pointed towards Philadelphia, the city where the iconic Liberty Bell resided. A gilded cage, a feathered prize, he murmured, pondering the cryptic phrase. What could be considered a gilded cage in Philadelphia, housing a valuable feathered prize? Finch, drawing upon his knowledge of American history and culture, recalled the Philadelphia Zoo, renowned for its aviary, a collection of rare and exotic birds. With his characteristic swiftness, Finch arranged for a transatlantic flight, his mind already strategizing his next move. He knew that the United States, with its diverse tapestry of dialects and regionalisms, presented a unique linguistic challenge. He immersed himself in recordings of American speech, familiarizing himself with the nuances of Southern drawls, Bostonian accents, and the fast-paced cadence of New York City. Landing in Philadelphia, Finch was greeted by Agent Davies, a sharp-witted FBI agent assigned to assist him. Davies, initially skeptical of the British inspector's reliance on linguistic clues, soon found himself impressed by Finch's deductive prowess. Their investigation led them to the Philadelphia Zoo, where they discovered that the raven's target was a prized bald eagle, a symbol of American freedom and a valuable specimen. The eagle's enclosure, a spacious aviary designed to mimic its natural habitat, could indeed be considered a gilded cage. As Finch and Davies examined the scene of the attempted theft, they discovered another clue, a scrap of paper with a list of seemingly random American idioms. Raining cats and dogs, piece of cake, kick the bucket, and barking up the wrong tree. Davies, baffled, looked at Finch questioningly. What do you make of this, Inspector? Finch, a smile playing on his lips, recognized the raven's game. Each idiom, he explained, represents a location within the zoo. Raining cats and dogs points to the big cats exhibit, piece of cake to the bakery near the entrance, kick the bucket to the reptile house where alligators reside, and barking up the wrong tree to the primate enclosure. Finch, with his deep understanding of the nuances of English idioms, had deciphered the raven's cryptic message. The list of idioms wasn't random. It was a map, a linguistic trail leading to the raven's next target. As Finch and Davies raced through the zoo, following the linguistic map, they encountered a scene of utter chaos. The raven, disguised as a zookeeper, was attempting to steal a venomous king cobra from the reptile house. Finch, his mind sharp and his movements precise, confronted the raven, engaging in a battle of wits and words. He used his knowledge of American slang and idioms to disarm the raven's verbal traps and expose their true intentions. The confrontation ended with the raven apprehended, the king cobra safely secured, and a bewildered crowd of onlookers applauding the British detective who had used his mastery of the English language to save the day. But the case was far from over. Finch knew that the raven was merely a pawn in a larger game, and the true mastermind remained hidden, lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike again. The chase was on, a linguistic pursuit that would take Finch across continents, cultures, and time itself. The English Detective, Chronicles Part 3, Echoes of Old English. The capture of the raven in Philadelphia sent ripples through the international intelligence community. Finch's unorthodox methods, his reliance on linguistic analysis, had initially raised eyebrows, but his success in thwarting the crimes in Oxford and Philadelphia earned him a grudging respect. However, the true mastermind remained elusive. The raven, under interrogation, revealed little, claiming to be merely a hired hand, following instructions delivered through cryptic messages. These messages, Finch discovered, were encrypted, written in a language that seemed both familiar and alien Old English. Finch, his fascination with the history of the English language piqued, immersed himself in the study of Old English texts. He pored over dusty volumes of Beowulf, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and the works of early English poets, his mind seeking patterns, connections, and potential clues hidden within the ancient language. He recognized the raven's messages as a form of Anglo-Saxon runes, a writing system used in early England before the adoption of the Latin alphabet. Each rune, a stylized symbol, represented a letter or a concept, and their combination could convey complex messages. The raven is playing a dangerous game, Finch mused to Agent Davis, who had joined him in London after the Philadelphia incident. They are not just a criminal mastermind, they are a scholar, a historian, obsessed with the origins of our language. Finch, with the assistance of a team of linguists and cryptographers, painstakingly deciphered the first message. On Albion's Isle, where legends dwell, a hidden hoard, a dragon's spell, seek the stone, the serpent's guide, the raven's secret shall abide. Albion's Isle, Finch recognized, was an ancient poetic name for Great Britain. A hidden hoard, a dragon's spell, suggested a location associated with ancient legends and mythology. Seek the stone, the serpent's guide, narrowed down the possibilities, pointing towards a specific artifact or landmark. Finch, piecing together the clues, believed he had identified the location, Stonehenge, the prehistoric monument on Salisbury Plain, shrouded in mystery and steeped in ancient lore. The stone referred to the massive standing stones, and the serpent's guide likely alluded to the nearby Uffington Whitehorse, a massive chalk figure carved into the hillside resembling a stylized serpent. Arriving at Stonehenge, Finch and his team discovered that the site had been recently disturbed. A section of the earth near the heel stone, a solitary standing stone outside the main circle, had been excavated, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside the chamber, they found a collection of Anglo-Saxon artifacts, a gold-hilted sword, an intricately carved helmet, and a silver goblet engraved with runes. And on the chamber wall, another message from the raven etched into the stone. When soon sets and shadows grow, the sail-fawn stars their light bestow. Where wisdom hides and time stands still, the raven's will shall find its fill. Finch, his brow furrowed in concentration, deciphered the message. Saophon stars referred to the constellation of the Pleiades, also known as the Seven Sisters, visible in the night sky during specific times of the year. Where wisdom hides and time stands still, suggested a location associated with knowledge and preservation, possibly a museum or an archive. The final line, the raven's will shall find its fill, hinted at the raven's ultimate goal to acquire something of great value, something that would fulfill their insatiable desire for knowledge and power. Finch, with his growing understanding of Old English, realized that the raven was not just leaving clues. They were weaving a narrative, a linguistic tapestry woven from the threads of English history and mythology. And he, the English detective, was playing a crucial role in their twisted game, a pawn in a pursuit that spans centuries and cultures. The English Detective Chronicles, Part 4, A Grammatical Gambit. Following the trail of cryptic clues left by the raven, Inspector Finch found himself standing before the imposing facade of the British Museum in London. The constellation of the Pleiades, the Saophon stars of the raven's message, shimmered in the night sky, their light casting long shadows across the museum's grand entrance. The British Museum, a treasure trove of history and knowledge, fit the description of where wisdom hides and time stands still perfectly. Finch, his mind racing with possibilities, entered the museum, accompanied by Agent Davies and a team of museum curators, all on high alert. The museum, usually bustling with tourists and scholars, was eerily silent, its vast halls echoing with their footsteps. Finch, guided by his intuition and the raven's cryptic messages, led his team to the Anglo-Saxon exhibit, where a collection of priceless artifacts from early England were displayed. As they approached the exhibit, Finch noticed that one of the display cases was shattered, its alarm system deactivated. A priceless gold crown, adorned with intricate Anglo-Saxon carvings, was missing. In its place, they found another message from the raven, this time not in runes, but in modern English, penned in the same elegant script as before. However, this message was not a riddle, but a grammatical puzzle. Within this realm of words profound, where meaning's threads are tightly wound, a sentence lies, its structure flawed. Correct its course, the truth applaud. Below the message was a single convoluted sentence, a grammatical monstrosity that seemed to defy all rules of syntax and structure. The gold crown, coveted by kings and queens since ages, shimmering brightly under the museum lights, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only shattered glass and baffled curators. Finch, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of frustration and excitement, recognized the raven's challenge. They were no longer playing a game of riddles and historical illusions, but testing his mastery of English grammar, his ability to dissect and reconstruct a sentence, to impose order on chaos. He gathered his team around the display case, his voice resonating with authority as he explained the challenge. "We are dealing with a master manipulator of language," he declared. "The raven has hidden the final clue within this grammatically flawed sentence. We must analyze its structure, identify its errors, and reconstruct it correctly to reveal the truth." The team, a blend of seasoned detectives and linguistic experts, pored over the sentence, dissecting its clauses, identifying its misplaced modifiers and correcting its dangling participles. They debated the placement of commas and semicolons, argued over the proper use of active and passive voice, and even delved into the nuances of subjunctive mood. The sentence, under their scrutiny, began to transform, shedding its grammatical flaws and revealing its true meaning. Finally, after hours of intense analysis and debate, Finch, with a triumphant flourish of his pen, presented the corrected sentence. The gold crown, coveted by kings and queens for ages, shimmered brightly under the museum lights, but vanished without a trace, leaving behind only shattered glass and baffled curators. As the corrected sentence took shape, a faint humming sound emanated from the display case. A hidden compartment, previously invisible, slid open, revealing a small, intricately carved wooden box. Inside the box, Finch found a single piece of paper with an address scrawled on it in the Raven's unmistakable handwriting. The address was not in London, nor in any other English-speaking country. It was in a remote village in the heart of Romania, a place far removed from the linguistic landscape Finch had been navigating. The Raven, it seemed, was playing their final gambit, a game that transcended language and challenged Finch to step outside his comfort zone, to face the unknown, and to confront the mastermind behind this elaborate linguistic chase. The English Detective Chronicles, Part 5. The Raven Unmasked. A remote village nestled in the Carpathian Mountains of Romania seemed an unlikely destination for a case revolving around the English language, yet here Inspector Finch was, standing before a crumbling castle, its stone walls draped in ivy and its windows like vacant eyes staring out at the misty landscape. The address from the Raven's final clue led to this desolate place, a world away from the familiar comforts of libraries and museums. Agent Davies, his face etched with a mixture of apprehension and excitement, stood beside Finch. "You sure about this, Inspector?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper above the whistling wind. "Seems a bit far-fetched, even for the Raven." "The Raven has led us on a linguistic dance across the globe," Finch replied, his gaze fixed on the castle. "They are a master of misdirection, of weaving a complex narrative, and I believe this is the final chapter, the climax of their elaborate scheme." As they approached the castle, a figure emerged from the shadows, their silhouette framed against the fading light. It was not the Raven Finch had anticipated, not a shadowy criminal mastermind, but a frail, elderly woman, her face etched with wisdom and a hint of sadness. "Welcome, Inspector Finch," she said, her voice surprisingly strong despite her age. "I have been expecting you." Finch, his mind reeling from the unexpected encounter, identified himself and Agent Davies. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice cautious but respectful. "I am the one you seek," she replied, a faint smile playing on her lips. "The one they call the Raven." The revelation stunned Finch. This unassuming woman, seemingly a world away from the sophisticated criminal mastermind he had envisioned, was the orchestrator of the elaborate linguistic puzzle that had led him on this global chase. She invited them into the castle, leading them to a dusty library filled with books in various languages, including a large collection of Old English texts. She explained that her true passion was not crime, but language, the history of words, the power of communication. She had used her knowledge of the English language, its evolution, its dialects, its idioms, its very structure, to create a challenge, a game for someone who appreciated its intricacies as much as she did. "But why?" Finch asked, his confusion evident. Why orchestrate these elaborate crimes? The woman sighed, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and defiance. I wanted to prove a point, she said, her voice trembling slightly. The world has become obsessed with technology, with instant communication, with superficiality. Language, true language with its depth, its history, its power to connect and inspire is being forgotten, disregarded. I wanted to remind people of its beauty, its complexity, its ability to shape our thoughts and our world. Finch, though understanding her motivations, reminded her that her actions had consequences, that her pursuit of linguistic brilliance had caused fear and disruption. The woman, acknowledging the error of her ways, expressed remorse for the trouble she'd caused. She then revealed the location of the stolen artifacts, hidden within a secret chamber in the castle. Finch and Davies retrieved the stolen treasures, ensuring their safe return to their respective museums and libraries. As the sun rose over the Carpathian Mountains, casting a golden glow on the ancient castle, Inspector Finch bid farewell to the woman who had called herself the Raven. She was apprehended, but not with a sense of triumph, but with a tinge of sadness. Finch recognized the brilliance of her mind, her passion for language, but also the misguided path she had chosen to express it. News of the Raven's capture and the recovery of the stolen artifacts spread like wildfire. Finch, hailed as a hero, received accolades for his linguistic prowess and his unconventional methods. But for Finch, the true reward was not the fame, but the journey itself. The linguistic exploration, the challenge of deciphering the Raven's intricate puzzles, and the realization that language in its purest form could be a powerful tool for both good and evil. And as he returned to his quiet study in London, the scent of old books and pipe tobacco welcoming him back to familiar ground, Inspector Alastair Finch, the English detective, knew that his journey was far from over. The world of language, with its endless intricacies and boundless possibilities, would always hold new mysteries to solve, new challenges to embrace, and new adventures to embark upon.